of capitalizing the revenue expenditure that improves the map. It is also correct to write off the maintenance costs. Full stop, leave a space, new paragraph. Keep looking back at the question. What are they doing? Their policy is that it is valued at cost. I hate to say it, but once again, that is the correct treatment. Full stop, leave a space, new paragraph. Lockfine's policy of using cost is correct, as value is only optional if there is readily ascertainable market values of such maps. Now, that I don't think will be the case. The company considers the database to have an indefinite life. Is that reasonable? Well, there's reference to the fact that we are maintaining the map, so I think it is reasonable. It is reasonable to assume such maps have an indefinite life. As they are being maintained. So whilst they're being maintained, they're up to date and they should last. It is reasonable to assume such maps have an indefinite life as they are being maintained. Annual impairment review. Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm out of time. Let me double check. How many marks were available? 6. I think I would get a mark for my definition. I think I would get a mark for applying my definition to the case in question. I think I will get another mark for talking about capitalizing the improvements and writing off the maintenance. I think I would get another mark for talking about the cost basis being acceptable and the value basis in this context not being acceptable, and I think I would get another mark for the reference to, for my judgment that an indefinite life is acceptable. So at the moment I have got 5 out of 6. Now ultimately 5 out of 6 is a fantastic mark. But we're not in the actual exam. I'm going to spend another minute or two getting that 6th mark for you. But it demonstrates that the real enemy, there's 2 enemies in the exam. There's 2 enemies in the exam. Yeah? One is time, and the other is knowledge. Yeah? Two limiting factors in the exam. And by the time you sit the exam, well, you tell me, not as you are today, but as you will be after the revision course, after you've done that extra work, after you've done the mock exam, when you're in the exam, the day before the exam, what will be the limiting factor? Will it be, for you, time or knowledge? It should be time. Yeah? I think you will all have the knowledge to pass the exam. So that if you had 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours to do the exam, you'd all pass it. Because you have the knowledge to get 50%. What you don't necessarily have is a lot of time in the exam to get all that knowledge down on the paper. So it's this recall ability, this application ability, this reading ability, this digestion ability and application. That's what you need to practice. That's why questions need to be done to time. When you look at the answer at the back, it will be longer. When you look at the answer at the back, it will be better. When you look at the answer at the back, it's the examiner's answer. Oh my God, the examiner's answer. But the examiner's answer is not what is reasonable to produce under the time pressure. When we are writing exam answers as students, we have to think time and marks. 1 mark per valid point. That is always the marking guide. 1 mark per valid point. Definition, then start to apply. And use this full stop. Leave a space. New paragraph. Challenge the marker to give you a mark for what you've done. Make friends with the marker. Yeah? Write neatly. Don't give him a block of writing in 1 paragraph at the top of the page. Break it down. Break it down. Make it visually more pleasing. Right. There's only one more thing left for me to say. And I've got to the very end. And looking at the very end of the question, yeah, they haven't made a disclosure. They haven't said why they have think it's an indefinite life and how they've come up with the criteria. Now, maybe this is getting very, very technical. I'm not a massive fan of rote learning disclosures because it's not really the thrust of the exam. But all accounting standards require disclosures, and there's an overriding principle in ISA 1 which simply says that you've got to make sufficient disclosures in order for the user to have a true and fair view. So perhaps we should make these disclosures. So full stop, leave a space, new paragraph. It is important that the users of the accounts have sufficient disclosures to review, to enable them to understand the financial statements. So it's important that the users of the accounts have sufficient disclosures to review, to enable them to understand the financial statements, i.e. it would be beneficial. In other words, it would be beneficial for Lockfine to make these disclosures. Full stop, leave a space, move on. Yeah? Start with the definition, apply, and then come finally to some conclusion. conclusion. Intangible assets, bit of knowledge required, comes up from time to time, never going to be a full question. Yeah, with all of these accounting standards, we're really thinking, how can they be examined for 5 or 6 marks? What's a definition? Yeah, and I'm happy effectively now to say intangible assets going, intangible assets going, intangible assets going, going, on, going, on. Right, so far this morning we've had a recap on deferred tax. So far this morning we've had a look at investment properties. So far this morning we've had a look at intangible assets. So we are cracking on, but I hope you're comfortable with what's happening here. Now, the thing we're going to have a quick look at before lunch is a rather dull accounting standard in my view, which is related party transactions. Yeah, related party disclosures, ISA 24. Now this standard is on page 147, yeah, in part 2. Today is May Day, yeah, Labour Day. Now, last week in my country, it was Easter, which obviously is not celebrated here in Malaysia, but I do remember Easter 10 years ago, very, very, very specifically, because it was at Easter 10 years ago that we bought a new car. The car that we had to replace last week, the car that we had to replace at Christmas. But anyway, 10 years ago, we bought a new car, and I was very excited about buying a new car. I'm not really into cars. I'm not really into cars at all, but a new car, it was a nice thing to have. And that morning that we got the new car, I can remember that I took a phone call, and when I took that phone call, what was happening was there was a woman who was crying. And so I quickly realised that it was my wife's cousin, it was Jenny's cousin, Christine. And that Christine didn't really want to cry to me on the phone, she wanted to talk to her sister, she wanted to talk to her cousin, yeah, my wife. Now what had happened that Easter 10 years ago was that Christine's husband had just left her. Yeah? In fact, it was Christine's second husband who had just left her, and Christine's second husband had just left her with 4 children, 2 by him, the second husband, and 2 by the first husband. So Christine had 4 children under the age of 6, with no husband, no breadwinner, and the husband had quite literally, Steve, had quite literally driven off, yeah, and just left her. So Christine was phoning my wife, telling me about this story. So what do you do? Well, we've got a bank holiday weekend, we've got a new car, so my wife says, okay, we'll come down and visit you. So they live in the south of England by the coast. It's about a 2-hour drive from where we are in St Albans. So we jump in the new car. Oh, I'm excited for a new car. Yeah. Chance to drive it down to the coast. And on the way down, Jenny and I were talking about, oh, how can we help? You know, we're family, but we're not local. And we came to the conclusion that Christine might need some financial help, might need some financial support. And we had an old car that we needed to get rid of because we just bought the new car. Now, this is my wife's cousin. So, strictly speaking, it's not my family, it's her family. So I said, okay, you deal with this. You talk to your cousin, see if she wants our car, yeah? You handle that situation. And I left it at that. Now, Christine bought the car. I was hoping to get something like, I don't know, £3,000. So maybe in ringgit, that might be, I don't know, 20,000 ringgit, something like that. I was hoping that we would sell the car to a stranger for about £3,000. And I think we sold it to her for about 500, 600, something like that. Yeah, so we sold it for a couple of thousand ringgit instead of 20,000 ringgit, you know. Now, I'm still not sure whether we did the right thing. Part of me thinks we should have just given her the car. So there you are, there's the car. There's a gift. But I think she wanted dignity. She wanted to think that she was buying the car and paying for it and not in receipt of charity. And so, you know, we took the money. Another part of me, the accountant part of me, thinks, oh my God, why did we sell it? That's really, anyway. This is my experience of a related party transaction. Because sometimes when you're dealing with related parties, it's not a normal transaction. It's not at arm's length. It may or may not be at the right price. Jenny and I are not accountable to anybody for what we do with our money. If we want to take our assets and sell them to our friends and relatives at a cheap price, losing money as a result, that's only between me and her. That's what we can do. It's our assets, we can do what we like with them. But if we're a director of the company, if we're a company and the company is giving away its assets cheaply, the shareholders want to know. If we are transacting with related parties, the shareholders want to know. We must make a disclosure because we owe the duty of our shareholders, we owe our shareholders to be transparent, to be complete. The reason for the standard is that, we need to give our shareholders a true and fair view. And they will only understand our financial performance, they will only understand our financial position in the context of being told about related party transactions. I once borrowed money from my father. My mother found out, which meant I had to repay it. I was hoping she wouldn't find out. And when I had to repay it with interest, because that's my mother for you. Now, I am not the only person in this room who has ever borrowed money from a family member or who has ever transacted assets with a family member. What I'm saying is related party transactions are normal. They're a part of business life, but they must be disclosed. They must be disclosed to give a true and fair view. So, related party transactions, they are a normal part of business.